Let me ask you, have you guys ever been challenged to a fight that you didn't want to fight? You ever been looked at with disdain or like just defiance or some supreme level of resistance, and someone's looking at you like you're inferior and they're superior, and they're saying, come on, bring it. Let's see if you can prove me wrong. Let's see if you can conquer me, or like, in a way, what this is symbolizing is the second step of problem behavior, which is a power struggle. People don't think that they're in a power struggle until they're actually in one. And then they don't know what to do to get out of it. And this is the thing. In order to actually get out of a power struggle, the first thing that you want to do is not actually get in one. Now, we talked about the first step of problem behavior, which was seeking attention. The second step, however, once that first step is not satisfied, becomes a power struggle. When a person fails to gain a sense of value from attention, what do, they shift to gaining a sense of significance through control, resistance, or dominance. What does that mean? That means when you were a child and your mother or father said, go to your room, and you was like, nah, and you're trying to, flex your muscles on, and you were just in such a defiant way of being. Everything that they told you to do, you said no to it. Everything that they told you to go clean this or do the chores or whatever, you resisted because you wanted to feel a sense of significance based upon having an element of control. And that's where it comes to a power struggle. Most children do it all the time. You'll see somebody say, it's time for bed. They'll start crying, throwing all kind of fit, and doing all types of things. And they'll do things in a defiant way because they're seeking attention, and then they don't know how to deal with their own emotion. So then, like I told you, an adult feels that they can't gain value by being themselves. It begins as a child that feels that they can't gain value by being themselves. Because when they're themselves, they're told not to be themselves. So then, as a child who grows or who starts off the process seeking attention, when that thing fails, they shift now to a power struggle. They're trying to get significance from themselves or their parents, and it happens in friendships. It happens in romantic relationships all the time, because you'll see that. I'll talk more about that in just a moment after I talk about the effect. But what this does is it leads to conflicts because they oppose, they argue, they resist authority, which is a big thing in terms of children and parents. And when you're doing this in relationships, it's just awful, because what happens to your relationship is because it becomes competitive. It becomes a person on one side, built on who is stronger, what side is stronger, who's smarter, who is more adept, who has more, who makes more money, who has the better body or the better aesthetic, who gets the most compliments, or something petty. And then it breaks trust and collaboration. When you have a relationship, you're supposed to be two heads, two minds in the same direction. It shouldn't be my way is better than your way. It shouldn't be this thing that my idea is better than your idea. It should be, how do we combine our ideas, or how do we combine our knowledge, or how do we make what we do something great? How do we do that? But that's not it. Because here's the mistaken goal. Because all problem behaviors stem from mistaken goals. This mistaken goal is I belong by proving I am stronger and no one else can boss me around. Here's the thing. People who have this goal mentality inside their head. They're already living in separation. They already don't understand that everything is connected, that they are connected energetically to everything around them. They think that they're separate. They think that what they do only stands to what they do. They don't think that it affects the whole, but what you do affects the whole. And therefore, the effect creates combative dynamics. Instead of cooperation, you're leaving cooperation. Now you're going to go box your partner. Now you're going to go box your parents, your mom and dad, your sister and brother. You're boxing everybody. You're in there fighting like you're in a cage, bare knuckle. You're in there and you realize that your relationship now becomes a contest of whose will is stronger, who's going to outlast the other person. Respect is replaced by intimidation. And this weakens, again, overall trust. So this is probably the worst place to be, was in a power struggle. Because once you get to this level, you're already going up the hill, and you're going to have to hit a tipping point to catastrophe. So here is like the last place that you can stop these problem behaviors, because as we compare in the first problem behavior, seeking attention, to the root chakra, power struggles occur in the sacral. And the sacral is known as the zone for pleasure. This is known as the chakra energy center that allows you to feel. It gives you the right to feel. And this is why, if you call Jung philosophy, they call it the shadow. The shadow is born from the sacral, from the excess or the deficiency in the sacral chakra. You don't have any pleasure. You're not enjoying your experience of life. The only reason why you're crying, the only reason why you're upset, the only reason why you're angry, literally, is because life's not happening the way you want it to happen. But it is happening the way you want it to happen, because everything is based upon an end goal. So you have that goal of indecisiveness. You made that goal of no specificity. You didn't say what you wanted to happen. You were going off in a generalized place because maybe you didn't believe, but it doesn't matter. Now the wind can take you wherever it wants to take you, and you can't do anything about it because you didn't make the decision to do anything about it. And this is where it stems from. It literally stems from you not being able to gain a sense of significance just by being yourself. Because you're turning away from yourself, you're constantly going into every situation that you walk into, whether you're at work, whether you're on your team, whether you're at home in your relationship or in your family. You know, you're always looking to outlast somebody so you can get the higher form of recognition, just because you don't have an element of control. Now, this is the part that I'm going to explain as a simplistic but challenging way of solving this problem. You have to realize you don't control nothing at all except for your attitude. You only control your attitude towards life. You can't control anything else about it. If that was the case, then you can go out on the 101 or on the 405. You got to make sure everybody get home safely today. Everybody on that highway, they're your responsibility. Make sure everybody gets home. Make sure everybody's following the speed limit. Nobody gets in trouble. No one dies today. No one gets sick today. No one gets hurt today. No one gets divorced today. No one gets left behind today. No animal gets left behind today. Nothing bad happens today. You will control everything, right? Wrong. That's the part people don't want to understand. You don't really want control. You don't want control. Because if you actually get control of what you're really asking for, man, you're going to be so overwhelmed. You need to understand that you need to give up that element of control to something greater than you. And once you do that, not can do that, because you can always do that. Once you choose to do that, once you decide to do that, your life is going to be so much more unique, so much more special, so much more impactful, because you'll actually have the power and the energy that you weren't giving away based on control to simply just going with the flow. You're not resisting the flow. You have got to go with the flow because the flow's going to carry you anyway. So you might as well just go with the current instead of trying to swim upstream the entire time because that ain't going to work. Know what you're asking for. But when you get into a power struggle, let me tell you how this works, especially in a relationship, because here's where this occurs. You want someone to behave the way that you want them to behave, not the way that you would like for them to like themselves to behave. Meaning, you want to tell them what the best version of themselves actually is. You want to do that, even though they have an idea of what the best version of themselves actually is in their own mind. You don't care for that. You want them to do it your way. Or you do know what their self-image of their best self is, and they're just not doing it. That's, again, where you can say the quote, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink, because you can't. You can't make them drink anything. You can't make them do anything that they don't want to do. It's not going to work out. And if you don't look at it from that perspective as well, you're going to tire yourself out, because the entire time you're pulling somebody who does not want to be there. That's where the resistance comes in. Here's where the power struggle comes in. Hey, we need to go here. We need to move like this. We need to do it this way. We need to go, and focus on this thing and this outcome. And they're like, nah. Okay, well, if they're like, nah, you know what you gotta do? You gotta leave. Because all you're gonna do is get involved in a power struggle with this person. And you don't surrender whatever it is that you desire to have. You have to find resonance with the thing that you're asking for. You have to find a level of resonance with the thing that you're asking for. So what that means is if you have a certain outlook or vision for your life, and the person across from you does not have the same outlook or vision for their life, you're not going to be in harmony. So neither of you are going to get to that. And you're going to be blocking each other from the blessings that either one of you can create for yourself and therefore for the whole. What you have to do is make the commitment to whatever lights you up and makes your heart happy and go for that. And don't lie. That's the main thing. The main thing when it comes to this level right here is don't lie. Don't act like the victim of life whenever you're actually the creator of it. Don't act like the victim knowing that you are the cause because you tried to seek attention and it didn't work. So what you did now was now you're thinking, well, I'm just going to say no to everything. I'm not going to do anything that they tell me to do. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to do anything. Like there's no consequence, but there's always a consequence in life. There's always a consequence in some way, shape, or form. There's always a consequence. And so then the effect that leads to conflict, you'll see this in relationships where people withhold intimacy. Many women are in control of intimacy in their relationship. And what happens when they implement this resisting, I'm not going to be intimate with my partner, this is showing a sign of control. You can't touch me until you qualify to touch me, type of thing. And it's challenging. It's challenging for the male because then you also see that men are stupid in this regard too, where you'll see sexual assault, sexual abuse in a relationship because they've been withheld. And now now they're thinking that they need to implement a superiority complex inside their head that says, I'm bigger than you. I can take whatever I want, whenever I want to take it, which is also wrong. You don't violate people like that. You have to be magnetic enough to want something, and then that person will desire to give it to you. So in that way, when you see that you're becoming competitive, you're not focusing on aligned goals, you're not sitting there making out a way of doing things and being accepting of the ways to do it. You're not doing that. You're purposely living under your threshold. You're not raising your floor to your ceiling. This is a concept Dr. Benjamin Hardy talks about, or it's in his book, The Science of Scaling. He's talking about raising your floor, meaning this is what you're not going to do anymore. People don't think about that. What you're not going to do is more important than what you are going to do. What you're not going to do is sabotage yourself anymore. What you're not going to do is practice these bad habits. What you're not going to do is talk back to your spouse or to your partner. What you're not going to do is run every time something gets uncomfortable for you to challenge yourself and look in the mirror. What you're not going to do is attempt to manipulate or be fake. You're going to always live with integrity, authenticity, be honest. When you can make the decision, it shifts your perspective to how relationships are going to work. And then your new goal is not I'll belong by proving I'm stronger and no one can boss me around. You're thinking I'll belong literally by cooperation, my contribution. It's not about people bossing you around. Sometimes people are actually that ignorant, they don't understand how to move forward. So when somebody tells them the new thing to do or the right thing to do, they feel disrespected. But you shouldn't feel disrespected because the goal should have been for you to evolve or for you to learn something new. So just because it wasn't given in a way that you asked for it doesn't mean anything. It just means that it was still given to you. You asked for the answer was given to you. How it was given to you is not your business. Just receive the answer and move forward. Problems like this occur based on feminist behavior. I've looked this up. I've done some research on feminism and where this stuff came from. This is like the 1940s, 50s, 60s. These movements started to happen because women wanted equality, which I completely understand in terms of financial equality and things like that. Women weren't allowed to have credit cards. I don't think until the 70s. That stuff is kind of ridiculous. You need to be able to have freedom of choice in that regard. But what then happens is they start to then use sexual prowess and they start to use what they have sexually as the element of control. And that limits them. It lowers their value. Now all you have is that. Now all you're literally using to your advantage to get a better life is that. And it doesn't make sense. It takes away so much more from what the person can offer. But now if you're married in a relationship and you don't want to have sex with your partner, why not? Why don't you tell him or her what they need to do in order to become more magnetic and attractive? And if they refuse to do that, then I understand that you need to either figure out a different way of being or figure out a different person to be with. But if you don't tell them what they should do, if you don't, first of all, give them a heads up and say, hey, can you make this change for me? And if they can agree to something, yes or no, if you can't come up with a way of cooperation in that regard, you're going to have a problem. And so I feel like people use their imagination to oppress others. And you should never use your imagination to imagine somebody in a bad place. You should always use your imagination to imagine somebody in a rightful position. And so based upon a power struggle, you don't need to have combative dynamics. You need to have cooperation, not a contrast or a contest of wills between two people. If you have two people going to one thing, automatically, and I'll talk to you about quantum entanglement. This is basically the word, there is a concept called telesematic phenomenon. And what that means is two people literally can feel telepathically what the other person is feeling throughout their entire existence, throughout their entire day. Moms can do it with any of their children. You can also experience it in a sexual relationship because of the exchange of fluids and chemicals and the exchange of photonic emissions. A girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, sexual partners can experience it based on they have the energy of the other person embedded within them. So if I'm sick, if I'm not feeling good, then my partner can feel sick and not feel well. And this is how you start to see energetic fields start to manipulate each other. And it's just based on fractality. It's just based on this person is split, this person is here, but we have the same exact chemistry and physiology because I can embed my physiology within you. So because I'm angry, but the anger that's within me can then affect your actual physiology. And then what that does is that lowers a person's floor. When your energy field is limited, when your energy field begins to shrink, it also affects, let's talk about not just vibes, constructive interference and destructive interference. We're talking about focus. So you have convergent and divergent. Convergent focus, you can look at it from you're locking in on something, one thing. But usually what that means is that one thing is something that's a negative thing because you're in a state of survival. When you become an abundant person, an abundant thinker, you have a divergent focus that expands all the way out through any possibility. And so unfortunately, when you see people who have these limitations, they mainly come from interpersonal relationships and somebody else based upon entanglement. So if you created the goal that says, I already belong, just by proving I'm stronger than my negative mind, instead of saying no one can boss me, you want to say everyone can partner with me. Everyone's open based upon friendship. You look at everyone around you as a friend, not as an enemy. It's a drastic shift in your perspective, but especially your partnership. Why would your partner be your enemy or your competitor? Why wouldn't your partner just be your partner? If they're your partner or your teammate, but you don't want to pass them the ball, you don't want them to have celebration too, you should want to win a team goal, not want to win an individual goal. And so you think of it like this. When you're seeking attention and it already failed, you're shifting to a sense of significance through control, resistance, dominance. That means you are susceptible to fighting physically, susceptible to fighting emotionally, resisting the right answer because they may be trying to give you the right answer. But because you have so much pride and your ego so large, you're resisting moving forward because you're thinking, I have to be the person that decides that. But that's not the case. If I told you, like I told you the first time, what everyone is combined in a sea of energy. That means I can find the answer to my challenge through someone else because we're all on the same wave. That means I need to use everyone around me as cooperation. So the effect won't be conflict. It won't be opposing or arguing or resisting authority. Relationships become cooperation. You may be good at something that your spouse sucks at or is awful at, and they may be a great cook. You may be a great person in terms of organization and finances. So if you want to go to the kitchen and make a meal, your preference would be to probably ask them, how do I do this properly? You would not want to resist the person who is an expert at that. But then when it comes to organization, if they need help with organization, they should not come to you to resist you for what you do well. And you're not going to do everything great, but you'll do some things that are great. But people have this thing where they don't want to look at the other person's strengths and say, your strengths can be my strengths as well. All I have to do is be open to receiving them. And that's where you get these power struggles. You don't want to participate in these Because what this does is it justifies someone's bad behavior. Someone can say, I have the emotion of anger. And because of that emotion of anger, I'm now going to express this. Or I'm going to hit you because of this. I've been hit. I've been in domestic situations, and not that I've physically gone in to hurt or harm someone, but because at the time my mind was so weakened just because I had a limited amount of energy that I validated someone doing it to me. And I didn't leave. I didn't say, hey, I'm worth more. I shouldn't be getting pounded on. That's what happens to people in domestic dispute. They'll make every excuse for someone on the outside to come into their field of energy and obstruct them because they don't want to hurt or harm anyone. Literally because of fear. They don't want to lose something. But I'm telling you, if you let that go, there's more to on the opposite side to go get. So rather than engaging in a power struggle, let them have it. Let them win it. Because whatever they're winning is, you're not going to lose anything. Let's let them have it. And I've learned over time to not engage in those things. The best way for me to win a fight is to avoid fighting. And that's just how I've grown accustomed to protecting my energy field and also the other person's, because I respect their energy field too. You know, it's just a different way of looking at life. You don't have to be the person responsible based upon your element of control. So, again, like I said the second time, the first problem behavior, seeking attention, connects to your root chakra. The second problem behavior, power struggle, connects to the sacral. This is the orange color chakra at the base of your spine. This is where water becomes really big, because in this wheel, this area of the sacrum, that may be on the back side of your spine. On the front side, it's going to be your intestines. You need to get the water to flow to this area here. Small intestine, large intestine. These areas, also the adrenals, these are all part of this area of the sacrum. When you can start to get this flow to be released and to start flowing based upon a principle of water, you're going to see a shift in the way that you perceive the things around you. So mainly orange. You start to look at foods that are orange. You start to look at citrus, start to look at things that can create I'll say a concentration, mainly of stomach acid, of bile, to get you to start to create these elements within you so that you can seek and receive pleasure from the outside. Okay, water is powerful. Now we focus on negative ORP water. I always give this thing out whenever I'm talking about water on my videos. This is freshpure.com. Go to freshpure.com. You will see they have negative 219 ORP water. This is alkaline, real alkaline water that's been ionized and mineralized, and it's a natural process. And what this does is this is negative ORP, standing for oxidation reduction potential. You need to have this type of water because this type of water is also antioxidant. And what this does is it helps you to move, again, your lymph, the waste material out of your body, so that you can now clear this area here up. Many men, like I stated in the previous video, seeking attention, have a lot of visceral fat. Many women have visceral fat as well that is trapped in this area of their womb space, where you see the uterus, the ovaries, this area here. They have a lot of energy that's just stuck here. And if they can get this energy to move, then whatever attachment that they have based upon their own memories, they can now get those cleared out. This through a different level of perspective on how that area works. This is a big area in terms of sexual pleasure. So like I said, many relationships suffer at the area of power struggle because of sexual relationships. What happens is a person becomes inferior in terms of their sexual relationships And they think that the only way for them to find value is to have more sexual relations. Men do it. They seek multiple sexual partners in order to seek validation. Women do it in order to keep or to hold or to attach themselves to someone. They do it based on sexual prowess. Men do it, women do it. And neither should do it. So sexual promiscuity is sometimes a superiority complex where people are looking at it from, I could have sex with whoever I want, and that means I'm more powerful. Or they do it in terms of inferiority, where they're thinking, I'm not worth anything, so the only thing that I have to offer is sex to somebody. Both sides do it. Men do it, women do it. So when you're seeing how these power struggles work, the first problem behavior, seeking attention, fails because they can't be themselves. Now that they can't be themselves, they're shifting to gaining sense of significance through controlling and then resisting and then dominating. This leads, and this is going to go to something even more powerful, but this is the part where I say you can stop it right now, or if you keep going, there's going to be no means to an end on this one. So you're going to create conflict, you're going to oppose, you're going to argue, you're going to resist authority, and now you're going to become competitive in your relationship. And this is where you're losing all sense of trust and collaboration, because now it's being built on who is stronger. That's why I don't believe in feminism. I don't even believe in, men and are the oppressors, or marriage is an oppressive state of being. I think that's an awful way to look at it. I think people just don't understand energy. It's two minds, left and right, that become one mind. Both of you have positive and negative. And sometimes a person's masculine will show up as positive. Someone's feminine will show up as negative. And then vice versa. It will change. If you can look at it from whichever one, a person is stronger at something, let them take the wheel on that thing, you learn cooperation. And that's why your goals can be, I'm belonging, not by proving I'm stronger and nobody can boss me and nobody can tell me what to do. No, I'm belonging by I'm stronger with cooperation. That's where these goals begin to shift. And now instead of combative dynamics, you have cooperative dynamics. Instead of a contest of wills, again, you have a team structure with a mastermind group. And now respect replaces intimidation. And it strengthens overall trust, not weakens it. Intimidation is not good for anyone. So you shouldn't have parents attempting to break the spirit of your children. You shouldn't have spouses attempting to break the spirit of each other. You should have someone who wants to amplify the spirit. So hold each other accountable and be partners in accountability, where someone says, hey, you're showing up, you're not showing up, you're not running as fast as you can, you're not doing what you can do to be your best version of yourself. Don't negate when people do that. People who do that care. People who don't do that, people will tell you, yeah, you're doing a great job, even though they know you're not giving your best. Those are yes people. Those people lie to you every day because they lie to themselves every day. And you don't want to be a part of those types of people. Those relationships suck. Those are where you start to look at people and say, the fakeness of acceptance is more powerful than authenticity and integrity. And that's not it. That's not it. So again, movement, hip circles. You can look at, in terms of training resistance, I would say the best exercise in this area would be bridge. So bridging, glute bridging, again, you want to find a level of resistance that is challenging for your body, but this is going to get this movement at the hips to start to strengthen. You need to get this area moving and start to train the area of the core at the bottoms. So flexors, hip flexor pulls. You can put your feet wrapped around a cable, a simple resistance band attached to a pole, and pull. A hip flexor pull, or just stand still and march. Stand still and begin to knee raise. Those things will help you to strengthen the hip flexors. Those areas begin at the bottom of the core, which we're going to move forward to the next video, where we do the next problem behavior step, which is going to be revenge. So that's where you're going to start to see these starting out the process of lighting these areas up, sending energy there is going to turn it on. Again, orange foods. You'll look at citrus is really powerful in these areas. I'd say grapefruit, really, really good. Another thing, oranges, any kind of oranges. Orange fruits, really, really good. Um, other than that, let's see, herbal, yeah, look, root vegetables. You can say turmeric, some other root structures, spices. Those things are pretty good to also help you to clean out the intestines, those areas too. And again, we're cleansing these parasites, getting these things out of your body. So Marble Formulas Awaken and Replenish are both great for this. We include 33 at the moment herbal ingredients with 12 mineral cell cells combined with shilajit and the negative ORPUR I was talking about. We do combine all of those elements within a certain circuit geometry formula that we mix together, and a person can add this to tea. So herbal teas are very good for this area too. So again, if you're looking for a one-on-one cleansing, a VIP cleansing, full chakra, full body reset, we do offer a one-on-one chakra detox. Also, at the end of the month, they become Alkalign Challenge, and we have a VIP retreat scheduled in West Los Angeles later on in Q4. We're looking at the months of November or early December to get that process for 10 people who want to come, couples alike or singles, 10 people total, in total. And that will be a week-long VIP experience, cleansing, learning the philosophy, hands-on, and experiencing it live. And the challenge is 7 days, 2 hours a day teaching that you're going to see. And I do have my new book, Orgasmic Power, that will be ready for release in about 3 weeks. So be on the lookout for that. Check out our website. See any more information. I do have a whole listing of research studies that have come out for the last 5 years that talk about these things. So, just in case you need to kind of get a little bit more adept in reading up how these things work, because it's powerful information when you know, but you need to understand the base to really get the context of it. And until then, see you in the next video. Peace.